I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we'll start as always with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's
Right. Just to interrupt you real quick, Board Chair. Back to the normal setting of our board meetings, but these mics, I will remind you that the blue light indicates that it's hot. It's a push on, push off, so housekeeping wise. And then we got the air conditioner running behind you, so it's really hard to hear in the audience. So if you can lean into those mics a little bit so the public can hear.
Thank you. Trustees, have you had a chance to review the agenda? Were there any questions or comments on the agenda? All right. We will move on then to item number 3 on our agenda, the superintendent's report.
Already?
Take it away, Mr. Welks.
That's fast.
Not ready. I'll start out there. Excuse me. There's a few loose items in front of you. One is the levy advocacy. That's from Caliber Law. It's the do's and don'ts, literally, of a political season, such as a bond or a levy. And in particular, that's been boiled down. Our high school principals made a white page just for their staff, but there's reference to what superintendents and trustees can and can't do during an advocacy side of a campaign. So take a look at that. If there's questions, reach back out to me, but it's self-explanatory that your rights, your responsibilities are different than those sort of me. They lump superintendents and trustees together, but I take a little more caution as a superintendent, as we've seen some precedents been set across the state. So really, as trustees, you can advocate, but it's not using district resources. So take a look at that. If there's questions, we can address. Also in front of you, I believe that there is the district priorities, and we'll get to that a little bit later. It's a draft form. We started generating that this summer. We talked a little bit about it during our July work session, and we'll bring that back to full board at a later time. But I want you to look at it and be able to work through it and ask questions, and we'll tailor it back up for September.
Just off the cuff.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. I really appreciate that it's very clear and concise.
I'm looking for my support there. Yes, that we changed the format.
A lot of times, educators have a tendency to put a lot of words in. So it's nice that know exactly what it is that we want to get done. I appreciate that.
Remember, over the last couple of years, and we'll talk about it further, but that's been in some sort of fun text. This is a different format, the priorities now. So the team thinks that this looks a little sharper, and I have to agree. All right, so superintendent report, welcome back. It seems like July. July didn't happen. We were in June, and then August happened, and so there has been a lot taking place. But I am thankful that we're back. I kind of reflected back to last year, and the work that gets done between now and September and October is pretty significant. And I remember saying back, look at all the things that you have done in these 3 months or 2 months, and I say that because that's where we're headed. Right? We're moving forward towards that kind of work, and there's been a lot happening this summer. But my superintendent report's fairly short this evening because we do have about 250 pages that Janelle can't wait to get up and talk about. We're pretty excited about it as well. But in terms of superintendent report, I always have 3 areas that I concentrate on: recognition, new business, and then outreach. So the recognitions right now is, as we go through the summer, a lot of people are out reflecting, recharging, getting ready for the school year, but that's not the case for a couple of departments, and one is facilities. So Todd Vale and his team have been actively getting after all of the maintenance projects that can be done while there's not students and staff in the buildings. So I want to recognize Todd and his team. Rob Brewer has done a remarkable job. As we've been out with bonds and brews and brown bags and bonds, and talking to the public around what's going on with our facilities and the needs for the bonds. Unanimously, it's always been yes, but have you seen Helen Middle School? If you haven't had a chance to drive by Helen Middle School, it looks phenomenal. They did a really nice job of painting it. And so that's one example of what the team has coordinated and facilitated this year. One of the examples of the things that they do. So that looks really good. The other department that does a lot of work during the summer, and that's Janelle and the business office. And truly, it's a time where we're closing out. Remember, our fiscal cycles are July 1, June 30th. And so by June 30th, you have to close out the 24-25 budget and build the 25-26. And so their office has been extremely busy closing out this last school year and getting ready for the other. And it's just not work that they rely on each other, right? There's a lot of variables that have to come in from the state to build those budgets. And so she's done a lot of work around that. Also, a couple of things that I'd like to mention. Our SAC program, we had the school-age childcare, the after-school school-age childcare SAC program, 181 students. Each week they focused on different things, geology, ecology, the great outdoors, music, and arts. And so they really had a theme and a focus all year for 181 students. And then our summer school is a 5-week program. It was intensive for literacy and building skills there. But the cool part is they also had dogs that came in, reading dogs. And so we saw, I think in July, you got a chance to see that last day. So we're pretty proud of that. And I want to thank the Helen Education Foundation for their work and their sponsorship for the upcoming new teacher orientation that's coming up. I believe that's August 22nd. 22nd, that should be a Friday. That's where we all come together and mentors meet up with their new teachers, and that's also we do the train tour throughout town, so we get to show all of the new people in town where the hot spots are, right? Where's the offices and the places to be and the banks, and so that's been pretty well received over the years. I want to thank Chamber of Commerce. Ally Asham has done a remarkable job supporting the education point. Remember, it's good for our audience. School districts are restricted to just passing information along, right? That's an information only. We don't advocate. We don't tell people how to vote. We just say to vote, and here's the information you need to make an informed decision. So Callie's done a really nice job. Chamber has done a really nice job of supporting all of those efforts that all summer long that we've been meeting with the public. And, I remember being at Kessler on one of our first ones, and we had 2 or 3 adults there to this afternoon, or this morning at noon, or this afternoon at Helena High. And I think we had over 55 people there this afternoon. So the attendance rates have gone up, and a lot of that has to be credited to the Chamber, or specifically Callie. Lastly, recognition, we have a new communication specialist. Taylor Lasser is here. Do you want to stand up, Taylor, so you can see who you are? Taylor comes from Billings, but most recently North Dakota. I think she worked with I know that she was working with the North Dakota School Boards as a communication marketing specialist for them. So she's with us now and been on board for a couple of weeks, I believe. So we're happy to have her. New business. Administrative changes for the 25-26 school year. There's been a lot of changes, but one or 3 that I want to highlight. Justine Alberts now is the assistant superintendent of pre-K 5. That then moves Mr. McKay into the 6-12, and they both take on responsibility of curriculum. And so there'll be a pre-K 5 curriculum with Justine, and Mr. McKay will help out with 6 middle school and high school curriculum. Eric Peterson, who, as we know, Mr. McMahon has moved on and out fishing the waters from what I think I called him the other day, and he was just headed out to the water. So I'm glad he's living up to the dream of fishing down to retirement. But Eric Peterson has taken over as athletic director. And then Ryan Swinson, math teacher out of Capitol, has accepted the responsibility for the assistant principal at Helena High. So we're glad. I saw Ryan this morning, had a big mingle on, and asked him how that was feeling coming from the other side of town. He said it itched a little bit, but it'll be all right. We have been doing master facility planning work, as you know. And I said it earlier, the brown bags and bonds and the brews and bonds, just getting out and talking to the public. But we've taken tours through all of our buildings, Kessler, Helena High, and Capitol. And as I said, it's been picking up. I would thank you as well. I think Jenny helping organize and having trustees there, it means a lot to have a trustee at all of those events. And when you take turns and able to show up, that it's helpful. So we appreciate your interest in that as well. We are still, so when you take a math teacher and you move them to admin, or you offer a position and they accept for a day and they move on, you can tell that we're still working on the 25, 26 staffing. It will go on, and it's not uncommon and pretty typical. I've been in districts where we're still 2 weeks in trying to figure out our staffing. And it's just part of the nature, but we are still working through our staffing. Beginning of the year activities, this is just came to reality. Probably 2019 and 20 might have been the last year the district came together in some social event prior to the first day of school, where we all come together. And there's been times in COVID, obviously, inhibited us from being together, but in there we just started saying we honor teachers' time in their classrooms, and we don't want to pull them out, so they have, there's just a limited amount of time that teachers need to be in their rooms. Well, we've been hearing, and I've been feeling the need for us to come together in some larger aspect of community. And so we are going to meet, that is on the 25th. I think that's the Monday start of school, from 8 to 9 o'clock, Helena Middle School, because it looks so good. We're going to meet out in front of Helena Middle School for a social event with coffee and pastries, and Sodexo is going to help us out with that. We'll hear from the teacher of the year. I'll welcome everybody. And really, it's just an hour we can come together, and you will get an invite for that as well. So look forward to having you there. And then before you, I did pass out, it does say draft on it, and you see that Gary has pulled it up for us. We have 5 pillars, obviously, of what we concentrate or we focus on, and it's been that way for some time. And that's really around teaching and learning, facilities, culture, budget, and our communications. Those are our 5 pillars. There's action steps under it. We will bring it back to you, but I would like for you to look through that for the next couple of days or through this week, and just provide some feedback for us before we bring it back to you to a full board. Fair enough. There's some pieces in there that there's some goals that we had talked about. Obviously, teaching and learning, there's 8 subset goals or 8 goals in there I'd like for you to take a look at. We talked about the facilities, and really there could be one outstanding goal around the facilities, and that's to educate the public around our facilities and the need for a bond. But there are others in there that Mr. Verrill has helped us out with. In culture, I think the highlight there is that we've seen a significant change when we started using the consensus-based approach. Specifically, Diane Groves. We changed our culture based on bringing people together and having conversations rather than being separated. And so we're going to continue the work around Diane Groves and the consensus-based process throughout the district. So that's a highlight. I would like to also note that we're also in a state where we want to start growing our own. We have a hard time, as the districts across the state are having a hard time finding teachers and or administrators. We're looking at opportunities for pairs to become teachers and teachers become administrators. And so we're going to start a grow your own, if you will, but that's just supporting our own staff that knows our district, that already has roots in our community, to stay here and to advance. And so that's just putting more time and effort into our own people. Obviously, budgets, we have done a lot of work, folks, so that from 2020 till today, in 5-6 years that I've been here and we've been here, we were $6.5 million in deficit in elementary and across the district. And so you'll hear tonight that those numbers are a little better, and it's something to celebrate. I think the hard work is paying off, and the hard decisions are, but it doesn't come lightly. But our budgets continue to communicate where we're at to our stakeholders. And then 2 things that we had talked about at our July work session. I'm not calling it a retreat because it's not necessarily a retreat, just because we'll go across the railroad tracks. So our July work session, we talked about developing an outward-facing data dashboard. And so that just to help communicate what are those that we think are really important to communicate, what do we want to share, because we have a lot of set points, a lot of data points that we could communicate, but what ones are the most important? So then we're going to work on that. That's what we had together at Bryant. And the other one is that we're going to explore opportunities for a new website. And that sounds easy. Let's just buy a new website and just plug it in. But we use our website for a lot of storage. And so it's really complex in it, but we know it's an old outdated system that can be upgraded and be a better communication tool, but we have to be able to get ready to do that. So Gary and I and the team are starting to work on solutions around or opportunities around the project manage that. So those are your 5 pillars that we'll be continually working on into the future. You did see the do's and don'ts. I wrote that down. Take a look at those. And then the outreach has been a lot. We have been out a lot. If it's print media, recorded, we've been all over the place, and there's been a lot of meetings, educational meetings throughout our community. So it's been a good summer. It's been a great opportunity to just get out and see people. It's so that's my superintendent report.
Thank you, Mr. Wiltz. Are there any questions from the board for the superintendent? Stephen Butcher?
Thank you. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you for all of your work on the bonds and educating the public. I know that that's been pretty extensive. Quick question about the administrative changes with the curriculum position getting rolled into the 2 assistant superintendent positions. Was that a cost savings overall?
Yeah, great question. I think we can answer that even in a broader sense. 2020, we had 37 administrators, and I think as of 25, 26 rolls out, we'll have 32. So we've reduced the amount of administrators. Often you hear there's a lot of conversation around social media that doesn't have the facts about the bloating of leadership, and that's not the case in Hillman Public Schools. It's going the other direction. Over the last 5 years, from 2020 to 2025, we are spending $383,000 less this year than we did in 2020. You'll see that that's including the same increases that teachers and other staff received last year and this year, 1.5 last year, 2% this year. Administrators got the same thing as teachers, consistent across the board. With those increases, we're about $32,000 more spending this year than we were last year. And so, yes, it is a saving. I will caution to this. We're about as thin as we can get. And so rolling back and not replacing a full-time FTE. Remember, we lost a half-time FTE administrator out of Hawthorne. Ms. Ridgway is retiring. So that collectively, we are down another FTE, if you will. Barb's going to stay with us for October, and then so we're going to this year we'll count that as a wash with the amount of time she saves, and then bringing back an assistant superintendent. So we're really down to 0.5, if you will. But there is a savings, and it has been a savings over the last 5 years. I don't know if we're going to sustain this model. We may need to bring back another curriculum, but I'm going to run it this year. And I've been real forward and direct with our team. If this isn't working, I need to know, but we're going to run it this year the way we are and share those duties. If you had a chance, and I think I've sent this to you before, we've had, when I was at Rosser as a principal, I said this, and this is not going to offend Ms. Ridgway, because she's heard me say it before. But when I was at Rosser, I'd say, what does Ms. Ridgway even do at Chief of Staff? Well, I'm telling you, when we started to unfold the responsibilities of what that looks like, and now I'm sharing those duties across the admin team or the central district admin team, it's a lot. And so what we need to do by lessening one person and sharing those responsibilities back out, this is going to be a heavy year for a smaller team up here. Yep.
Trustee Armstrong.
Thank you. Superintendent Wells, can you just go over, because I feel like when we talk about administrators, there's a bit of confusion for the public, what that actually entails. So I think you mentioned like 32, and that's not central admin, which is what I think
it is.
You can just educate.
It is. It's everywhere. So when the term administrators is applied, it's your assistant principals, directors, and assistant superintendent, and so that makes up your 32 or 37 when I first got here. Yeah, I think often people talk about administration, they forget administrators are assistant principals and principals in buildings, right?
Any other questions for the superintendent? Oh, Trustee Hathorn.
I have the same one, but thank you for asking that. So I'm good there. These are just sort of extensions. Is our SAC program, you mentioned the SAC program, is that going to be affected by the national cut on after school programs, or is that something that's going to affect our school as well?
I don't know, I can ask for help, but our SAC program is self-funded, right? So there's a paid piece to that. I think what affects SAC is the ability just to hire people, right?
Okay.
Staffing.
Any other questions?
And then, oh, sorry, one
Go
more.
ahead, go ahead.
And then the other one was just more of a comment. You talked about grow your own. I know at several of the leadership conferences that I've been in, they have a CTE component where they grow their own teachers from the student perspective too. I'm wondering if that is anything that we've ever thought about. And they partner with one of the statewide schools.
Yeah, so in our goals and objectives for our priorities for this coming school year, Mr. McKay, Caitlin Hess, federal programs are in the team has started talking about more opportunities for internship partnerships and such as that. I will tell you, I have had programs where I've had high school students go down to the elementary schools and train with teachers as part of this kind of grow your own. We don't have that specifically, that detailed yet, but it is something that we're exploring for more opportunities, and that will be one of them.
Well, and the ones that were presented to me, they could come out of high school with 2 years of college, and then
Yep.
it becomes very cost effective, and they're more likely to come back
Yes.
to your district as well.
Students and parents love that opportunity for, a student is thinking that they want to be a physician. And so they go and they do a rotation at the hospital and find out, blood's not my thing. Right? I might want to go into psychology. Same thing with teaching, right? So if we want to have students that want to think that they want to be an educator and they get into the program and they either love it or they hate it, but they're not spending money in college finding out that that's not what they want to do. So we need more opportunities around that, and that's part of the team that has started to address the need for exposure.
Thank you.
Anything else? I had one clarification regarding the use of district property. Just wanted to clarify. I mean, the only district property that we actually really use is our email. I just wanted to sort of kind of put a pin in that please don't. I guess you've already said it, but I just thought I would just say it again. That means that we cannot communicate for the bond using our district-wide email.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 4, general public comment. This is the time for public comment. For comment on public matters that are not on the agenda. Public matters do not include any pending legal matters, private personnel issues, or private student issues. Please do not attempt to address such issues at this time, or you will be ruled out of order. And remember, the board cannot enter into a discussion during general public comment. So are there any members of the public who wish to comment in person at this time?
My name is Rachel Howard, Howard. I just wanted to thank the trustees and school administrators for their collective work around the final budgets for the upcoming 25-26 school year. I've been coming to quite a few school board meetings over the past year and had a lot of questions about potential program cuts based on budget deficits, and talk about those cuts taking the Helena Public Schools down to bare bones accreditation standards. I know the district had to make many difficult decisions to reach a balanced operational budget for both the elementary and high school, and I truly believe that the budgets presented in the board packet tonight are ones that will benefit all students in our district. And so I just wanted to say thank you for endlessly crunching numbers, Janet, to figure out a way to restore elementary PE and music lessons, including the winter music programs, increasing staff in middle schools, and having high school teachers once again teach 5 out of 7 periods. I also wanted to commend the district on approving a salary increase for our teachers, paraeducators, administrators, custodians, all the staff members. There was a great quote in the packet that I just wanted to share. Investing in competitive salaries is a direct reflection of our district's commitment to acknowledge and reward the valuable contributions of our current employees. A well-compensated workforce is likely to be engaged, motivated, and dedicated to their roles, resulting in increased productivity and a higher morale
across the organization. Competitive compensation also fosters loyalty and reduces turnover risk. So I just wanted to say thank you for acknowledging the hard work of our district's teachers and all the staff members that keep our great schools going. Like I said, I was skeptical and had a lot of questions, so I started reading these at times very long board packets. But coming to the board meetings and got involved, and I really learned a lot about the incredibly complicated school funding issues, the buildings needs and challenges facing our districts. And I am confident in our administrators and trustees and that they are fully committed to serving all the students in our district. And I would encourage other community members who have questions to come to these meetings, come to the source of information and get answers to your questions, because public education is for all of us and it needs all of our support. We have a kiddo that just had tonsil surgery, so we're going to head out, but I just wanted to say thank you all very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment in person? You can try to top that. Is there any public comment online that you're seeing, Ms. Delvo?
Hands are raised. We do have two additional, are those cases of the public? I think.
There are a couple.
Yeah, but no hands are raised. So
Thank you. All right, well, seeing none, we'll move on to new business consent action items. Is there a motion to approve the consent action items?
I will.
Thank you, trustee Satry. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. We have a motion from trustee Satry and a second from trustee Hathorn. Is there any public comment on the motion? Is there any board comment on the motion?
This is my normal question. I think it's always important, especially when we move to open enrollment and perhaps even we hopefully we're set, but potentially more choices in the future, that we look at where our students go and where they live and where they choose to go. So if we love the ones that are coming in, I should, ask more questions about that, but, we'll take them. We love to keep our doors filled. We do have a pretty good deficit this year. Does that little like 160 or so of kids leaving the district versus kids coming in? I know we've done a lot of work around that. We've done a study that we determined where everyone was going, and I am just wondering how this 333 compares to our numbers last year. If anyone would know that. It's similar. Okay.
Yeah. Might be people on.
I did it myself. There may be people online. So the question was, well, how does this numbers compare to last year's number? It's similar.
Okay. Do you know if we're going to continue any more of that work to we have a really good baseline now of why kids are leaving or why they're coming in, or is that something that we can afford or have the time to continue to keep up with?
I can't get that mic close. The answer is yes. So the baseline is established, and now it's easier now to keep track of that, especially with the live where we have to have forms filled out, which is really difficult. But we know now a better tracking system of who's coming in, who's not. So that information will be put into a spreadsheet. We'll be able to track that information easier. Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that, I always want, and I believe that we are the best school system in this valley.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wish for more kids to come our way. I know there's very valid reasons. We found out, well, maybe they're working in Butte and it's easy to drop them off on Clancy in the way, or the same thing on East Helena. So it's not always, a value judgment that you may assume. But I think we need to always keep that in the back of our minds, that we need to continue to promote our school system so that we keep the kids that we have and we offer those students the best services around.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the motion? All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the motion passes 2, 3, 4, 5. 7-0. Basic math. Got it nailed. Wait, 6? Oh, right. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, moving on to action items. Item number 1, approval and ratification of the HPS custodians and centralized maintenance collective bargaining agreement for 25 through 27. And Ms. Zell, that's you. Ms. Mazel, that's you.
And for my partner in crime, but good evening. Thank you. So you have in front of you a proposal for the custodians and centralized maintenance for a 2-year contract, which again, we're really excited about that we're able to get more of these 2-year contracts in front for you. So a lot of it is similar, maintaining the already approved cafeteria plan benefits for insurance. We did look at increasing their salary at 50 cents for each cell for 25-26 and 50 cents for 26-27, which keeps them a little bit more competitive with the market. And then again, that makes sure that everybody's getting the same amount of an increase versus those that are new are getting a less increase than those that have had more longevity with us. And I'll talk about that in a minute too. Also look at increasing their clothing allowance from $300 to $450 per year to again be competitive with what we've agreed to with our other trades unions. Increasing the retirement benefit from $200 to $300 for those who have been with us for 20 years in custodial service, and we do have a few, so really appreciate their dedication and commitment. And then finally, we did something a little bit more creative with our custodian group. This is one group that they come in at a base rate. We don't give any recognition for prior year service. And so their earning potential with us is a little bit less. And we have had many opportunities for recruitment and retention. Right now, we have 9 custodial vacancies, 2 centralized maintenance vacancies. Yeah, and that hasn't been a good trend. And so we're really hopeful that this will get approved today so we can update some things tomorrow on our recruitment sites. But what we're proposing is for that recruitment and retention is that we would give basically a stipend paid in July to recognize their time with us. So if they've been with us for 1 to 10 years, they would get a $300 stipend each July. Again, they have to be with us a full 12 months. So those that we hired 2 months ago, they would be eligible for this. Those that have been with us 11 to 19 years would get $350, 20 to 25 years, $400, and 26 plus years, $500 retention bonus. And so we think that this is a good way to recognize the amazing service that they provide, be competitive, and still recognize the uniqueness of this group. And so the estimated cost you see there is about rounding up to $140,000. That does include the clothing allowance as well as the estimated retirement and the stipend. So again, the recommendation is to approve this collective bargaining agreement for our custodians, and it was unanimously approved earlier this month.
Thank you. Are there any board questions? Trustee Armstrong.
Just the one, so the 138,264, that's over 2 years. That's the cost.
Roughly, it's a little bit harder to estimate the second year cost, but yeah, it's close.
Trustee Hadley.
And did you say this puts our custodial staff at a competitive position? It keeps us more competitive, yes. Still have a little bit more work to do, is that what we're hearing? I need to look at the numbers again. Our data is 2 years old, but this gets us closer, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. And I think, again, if you look at our overall benefits package, when we tie in the clothing allowance with the retention bonus and our health benefits, I think this keeps us very close. Are those items something that is somewhat unique to our district? Will that help? I believe the retention bonus would be. I think the clothing allowance is probably not unique to us. The amount could be a little bit, I would hope, higher, but I can't speak to that directly.
In the arena around maintenance facilities, excuse me, the high vis clothing is necessities with OSHA. And so that's part of the reason why we run with high vis clothing, and then we provide an allowance. So I would imagine we see that at many districts, especially the AA's. We did get a little more creative in trying to have Todd not come back and report, but we've hired 2 and lost 4.
Yes.
Remember that cycle that we've been in? So we would like to keep in predominantly most of our employees in this payroll group are 1 to 10 years. When you start looking at 11 to 20 and 20 to 26, that number starts dropping off heavily. And so we want to recruit and retain them. So this is an effort to do that.
I just want to say I really appreciate that we're still working towards market. Before Ms. Mizell came in and before Superintendent Welts came in, there was a lot of disparity within our working groups, and you can't you have to stair step that up. You can't fix it right away. And so I think keeping that in the back of our minds and honoring each class of workers to be competitive around the state and even within Helena is really important. And just want to thank you for your work in doing that.
It's a group effort. Mr. Barrel I don't see him in the building here at the moment, but he was also part of this, and we appreciate all of his efforts as well.
All right, there's no more board questions or comments. I'd entertain a motion. Trustee Armstrong.
I will move for approval and ratification of the HBS Custodians and Centralized Maintenance Collective Bargaining Agreement for 25 through 27.
Thank you. Is there a second? Great, thank you. So we have a motion from Trustee Armstrong and a second from Trustee Walsh. Is there any public comment on the motion? Is there any further board comment on the motion? I would make one small comment that the custodians play such an important role, and I really appreciate the energy and the effort and the dedication that they put in and that you all put in making sure that they were as fairly compensated as we can be right now and pushing towards better compensation in the future. So I thank you very much. All right. We have with the motion and a second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, action item number 2. The trifling matter of our budget for the coming year.
Yes. As you know, work your way up here. Just note that we have one more payroll group for negotiations right now. It's in the process. So this was our second to last. We'll have secretaries left. And so they're all out during the summer, and Ms. Mizell's in the middle of negotiating that. So we'll have one more group left for your approval.
Thank you.
Good evening.
You ready?
I'm ready. So this is to approve your trustees' financial summary, which is the financial reports from the last fiscal year. The school districts account for the receipts and disbursements of all money belonging to the district in accordance with the methods prescribed by the Office of Public Instruction, and that's what this report is. And I know it's just riveting information for all of you, and that you want me to go through it in complete detail, so I thought we'd go page by page, if that's okay. No, I'm kidding. We'd be here all night. But I do want to highlight a few things. So first of all, you have to submit this report. I have to submit this report to the county superintendent by August 15th. So you'll meet that deadline if you approve it today. Trustees are actually responsible for ensuring the accuracy of this report, but trust me on this. Subsequent amendments, and sometimes there are subsequent amendments. Sometimes the Department of Revenue throws out a new taxable value. It's happened more than once, and I could see it happening this year. So if something like that happens, tonight when you approve this, you approve of me making that change to the trustees' financial summary.
What happens if it's not approved tonight?
Then we have to meet again, and it has to be approved by the 15th.
So multiple meetings until the 15th.
Okay, here's the highlights that I found as I was working through this. interesting enough, local property tax revenue directly received by this district was down by 4.43%. So I know property tax owners pay a lot more, but they just need to realize it went directly to the state. It didn't come directly to us. Salary and benefits accounted for about 90.50% in the elementary and 87.20 in the high school. Not bad. Out-of-district tuition laws changed with the passage of HB 203 in the 2023 legislative session. So the districts could no longer charge parents, and tuition was in arrears. So as a result, tuition receipts were down by about 81%. They'll go back up in 2026 with the new law. The following costs, which I think this is really good news. The following costs that were originally charged to the interlocal fund, because we didn't think we had the money in the general fund, were moved back to the general fund. Approximately $342,000 in technology costs were moved back to the elementary general fund. Approximately $344,000 of curriculum costs were moved back into the elementary general fund. The CSCT match, about $290,000, moved to the elementary general fund. Approximately $435,000 in technology salaries was moved to the high school. And then a portion of the property and liability insurance, $325,000 in the elementary and $307,000 in the high school. And lastly, copier lease costs of about $25,000 in the elementary and about $14,000 in the high school. All those costs were originally charged to the interlocal, and we were able to move them back to the general fund. So yay. Approximately $2,195,000 of one-on-one special ed costs, so paras, nurses, interpreters, those types of costs for special ed students was paid for out of the elementary tuition fund, and about $338,000 was paid for out of the high school. In fiscal year 2025, with the exception of paraeducators, all employee groups received a 1.5% increase in salaries. Paraeducators received a 30% per hour. Health benefits increased by approximately $39.50 per month. Federal program revenue in the miscellaneous program fund was down approximately $274,000, and this is primarily due to the Montana Comprehensive Literacy State Development Program expired. I think I wanted to highlight that 50 individuals donated to the Innovative Educational Tax Credit Program. The elementary received $167,250, and the high school received $137,850 for a total of $305,100. So thank you. Driving education expenditures outpaced this, and this has been happening. It's running in the red every year. So expenditures outpaced revenues, and so approximately $48,770 of expenditures were transferred back into the high school general fund to bring that out of the red. The technology department continued to operate with a bare bones budget. The interlocal fund did not supplement them as heavily as we thought we would. We were able to move those expenditures back. It only paid for $73,146. However, Gary will tell you that device failure is inevitable, and there is concern that there won't be sufficient funds in the technology fund to replace those devices when they fail. The district received $210,795 in advanced opportunity aid. That grant money is accounted for in the flexibility fund, and it was used to reduce student and family out-of-pocket costs for AP exam, dual credit classes, and other course fees, and for the enhancement of CTE. All bond projects are complete. At year end, the remaining balance of 16,052 cents in the elementary building fund was transferred to the debt service fund. That's pursuant to the statute. Major projects funded by the Building Reserve Fund included Smith Elementary HVAC system, Helena Middle School exterior building improvements, lunch tables at Smith and Rossiter Elementary, Capitol High School auditorium lighting, and various repair and maintenance projects at all schools, like carpet replacement, fire escape repairs, and sprinkler repairs. In addition, counselor salaries totaling $613,155 in the elementary and $295,390 in the high school were also funded by the Building Reserve Fund. That's that safety and security sub-fund. And the cost of the school resource officer, $169,438, was paid out of the Building Reserve Fund. At year end, after all cash transfers, the interlocal fund had an ending fund balance of $8,260,000, of which about $1.5 million is earmarked for building budgets and special education department, activities department, and professional growth. You should have received the interlocal fund activity somewhere in the packet. If you want to refer to that, it shows the transfers out of which funds and the activity for the year. Now you want to go through the page by page? Any questions?
Any questions? Oh, Trustee Armstrong.
Thank you for that. I have two questions. What is the elementary district sent OPI 6,600 for education savings accounts for 2 students? What is that?
That is the private school homeschools that we pay for.
Okay. All right. My other question is just looking at how the interlocal is ended up this year, which is probably better than we thought.
Yes.
I was just wondering about the fact that we're paying counselors' salaries out of the building reserve fund. Is it going to be possible? That's not typically where they go.
With the new statute, that was one of the ideas for school safety, school resource officers, counselors,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Most start paying for some of their counselors out of that.
Really?
Most AAs, yeah. And I don't like to pay for salaries out of the interlocal. That
One-time money.
that's one-time money.
So that's our option then. Is it's either general or it's building reserve.
Reserve. I mean, interlocal could be an option.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be continuous.
Trustee Satry.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm just curious about, I'm looking at the costs that were charged to the interlocal fund that were moved back into the general fund. And I'm just curious about the 342,000 in technology costs. So we budgeted, then didn't spend that, but we also have this bare bones technology budget. I'm just trying to understand what we didn't do that we had maybe thought we were going to do.
I will have to defer to Gary on that.
Curious.
Sure. Well, really, it isn't things that we didn't do. It's just moving things that we had planned to spend from interlocal back into those. Yeah. So we had
Savings in the general fund.
right.
We had savings, and a lot of the savings was in educator salaries. Because when I built the budget, we had a lot of positions that were still open, but we ended up closing in August. So there was savings in the general fund that I didn't anticipate, and therefore we didn't need to use the interlocal for the technology.
That said, to clarify what we're doing for technology is that really we are running on the bare minimum of device replacement cycles that we can. So we're running our devices until they basically don't function anymore. And by devices, I just mean the Chromebooks, it's the switches and the wireless access points and all those other things that need to be replaced on a regular cycle. We've been operating at a point where we're not replacing those in a regular cycle. So critical failures are more likely. And also, at some point, we will have to either do without devices or expend a significant amount.
Thank you. That clarifies, because when I was first reading this, I was thinking it was technology cost saving,
Right.
but we're bare bones. But I understand there were savings in other
Yep.
areas of the budget that then we were able to take some of those costs we put in for technology. So got it.
Wasn't spending less.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Trustee Armstrong?
So talking about that you had unexpected savings because you closed some positions, what was the impact on, what were those positions and what was the impact on our students with that?
Positions they work.
They were the music and PE
Yeah.
and the sixth assignment.
So, Bill's budget, we make decisions and then that there's a savings in vacancy, right? And the impact is obvious now that we know what those were. Music, PE programs.
In addition, I always budget for the needed paraprofessionals. We never fill them. So there's always savings there. And the same is true for custodians.
Jenny.
Trustee Manan Butcher?
Thank you. Janelle, thank you so much for your work on this. I don't expect an answer to this today, but one thing that has been coming up quite a bit at the decennial study is how much local school districts are spending on special education specifically. And I see that from our state special education allowable cost payment, that's significantly less than what we're spending on our special education. And I assume that there are other pools from which we get a little, like the tuition fund, or if there's a few other state resources which we get. Would you be able to see how many state resources we get compared to all of our special education payments out of all of our different buckets, so we could get a clear comparison?
So in this report, there should be, let me find the page. It's called the Special Education Reversion.
Ah, excellent.
And it shows you what we get from the state and what we spend. Can't find the page. Let's see. Yes, it is on page 78 of the elementary.
Perfect.
It follows the detailed expenditure report. So towards the end.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Trustee Hathaway, did you have a question?
Mine is just more of a comment. I think your statement that local tax revenues are down, I think is something that the public would really be interested to know that.
Yeah.
As we're running bonds and we're looking at our taxes going up, I think a lot of people just assume that schools are getting a lot of that. And that's not a crazy assumption. You would think that they would, but I know there's a couple of reporters in the room right now, but I think that is really important information for the people of Helena to know, that even though they're paying a lot more tax, it's not coming into our school system.
It didn't come directly to the school system last year. We were down.
Right.
Thank you.
I had just a clarification on that. So is on what Trustee Hathaway had brought up. So I want to make sure I understand what that statistic means, that the property taxes levied for schools and gathered in our district, when it went to Helena, we are Helena, but when it went to the legislature and got repackaged and sent back out to us through the school funding formula, we ended up getting 4.4% less last year than the year before, despite the fact that they were paying more. So some of it was obviously staying in the general fund and not the state's general fund and not coming to us.
Yeah. So the 95 mills.
Yep.
would go straight to the legislature.
Sure.
Granted, it is used to fund schools, but schools as a whole, right, across the state. And we didn't see local property taxes increase last year. They decreased by 4.43.
I see.
But I know people paid higher property taxes. And it just went to the state for the funding formula for this year, because we had already gotten our money for last year.
Right. Okay, thank you. Any other, oh, trustee Walsh.
So I'm curious about when we're looking at the salaries and benefits, is there an ideal percentage that we would like to be sitting at, or this like a standard for that cost?
I think the standard used to be 87 to 89. We got up as high as 94 at one point.
Oh.
And I don't think 90 is horrible. I think
And that it includes the administrator.
that's all salaries.
It's salary.
All salaries, yep.
Everybody.
I mean, it will go up next year or in 2026 because we gave a 2% increase to everybody and adjusted the matrix and hired back a lot of positions that we had closed.
That target, trustee Walsh, used to be around 88%. That was a place where we like to live. When I
Hasn't been
first,
that way.
when I first got here, I think the elementary was 97 or 98%. It was
It
extremely.
was headed there. I don't think it ever actually got there.
And so if we could live in a zone of 90 to 92, I'd be comfortable there. Just with the increased costs of operations. I don't think we'll ever see in our life again 80 in the high 80s, in that range.
We did in the high school last year though,
88. Yeah.
but we
That was 6 to 7.
6 to 7, yeah.
Right.
So,
It was a disaster.
yeah.
So then we can expect for the upcoming budget for that to be a little bit higher
Yeah, I would.
for those.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would agree that's not sitting too bad then.
Yeah.
For a standard.
Right.
You know, I guess for what we were hoping for / expecting. Okay. And then the resource officers, aren't they half paid? Like, don't we split that with the city or county or something, or is that fully out of our pocket?
We have a contract with them directly to pay for 2. We don't pay for all of them.
SROs?
Yeah.
2.
2.
Yeah. 2. We split. It's
So
a
it is
2-2.
kinda- Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions of trustee Armstrong?
Janelle, I just want to thank you
Thank you.
for all this work. I know people have talked about the fact that we've been giving some increased salary compensation. I'll just point out that giving a 2% increase is lower than the 3.4% inflation we had, and I expect that number to go up. So, and yet, despite that, we kind of had planned ahead, and so we are looking much better than we did. And it's super crucial. I mean, the state government's right here. We are very careful to now have a joint compensation policy, and then to look at the market data as best we can and keep people in that market. And so that's what we're doing. We're looking at, not every year, we're not paying CMS every year to go out and do that because that's really not cost efficient, but we are looking at that and we are really attempting to keep us within market. And when we do make these decisions and ratify contracts, we are asking, how does that compare? And you won't hear it a lot, but you'll hear that question, I think, every time we vote on it. So, I mean, thank you. In a short time, we've gone from it's a cliff, we're going to fall off a cliff, to actually we now get to make some important positive decisions tonight. So
Thank you. All right. Well, that was a wonderful conversation and a great presentation. Is there a motion? And it's broken up into 2, starting first with the elementary fiscal year. Yes, trustee Hathorn.
I move that. It's me.
I move that we certify the trustees' financial summary for the elementary fiscal year 2024-25.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and there's a second. Is there any public comment on the motion? Is there any further board comment or questions on the motion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And we can move right along, I think. If we're ready to the accepting or certifying the high school financials. If anyone feels ready to make a motion.
Chair McKee, I move that we certify the trustees' financial summary for the high school fiscal year 2024-2025.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We got a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on the motion? Is there any further board comment on the motion? I would say one small thing, kind of piggybacking. I mean, this is my 6th year, and every year I've heard the phrase fiscal cliff. And I had heard all of the things that it would take to avoid the fiscal cliff, including levies, which never happened. So we just did that through your incredible dedication. Everyone in the district who works in the district just frankly sucking it up and getting every single penny out of every budget. And then those of us up here, we just had to make a series of gut-wrenching decisions and learning from them and hoping that our teachers didn't give up on us along the way. And this night feels like we got somewhere. I mean, there's a cliff out there somewhere, but we're not walking on it. So I absolutely appreciate everyone who worked on it, which is really everyone. I mean, last year was sort of an experiment, and some of those experiments turned out poorly. And that was people's lives. So I truly appreciate so much. Thank you. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay. Item for action number 4, take it away.
All right. So this is your 25-26 budget document. On page 1, it just shows you each of the funds and what your budget was last year and this year and the difference. Overall increase in the elementary would be a 4.22% increase, but look at the general fund, 7.89%. The other funds are reduced, which I'll get into that a little bit more, but a lot of the increase in that budget, well, the major reason for that increase was the STARS Act, obviously. So that was a good thing that the legislature did. Then if you want to go to page 2, I'll just kind of go through some highlights. I don't know if I'll go through all of them unless you really want me to. In terms of salary increases and decreases, educators and paraprofessionals, teacher salary matrix was adjusted so that the beginning salary would be at 66% of the average teacher salary. That's so we could receive the STARS money. And then in addition to that, there was a 2% increase applied to the matrix. Extra duty rate was increased from $30 to 56 cents to $33 an hour. Craft council, which is plumbers and mechanics, received a 2% increase. Negotiations for custodians, painters, carpenters, and secretaries were not settled at the time that this report was prepared. So I applied a 2% increase to them and a 2% increase for independents and administrators. Mid-year lane changes for educators was budgeted at 207, close to 208,000 in the elementary and 76,000 in the high school. And I do want to say that is a lot less than lane changes used to be. So when we negotiated that you could only move 2 lanes, that was a savings. Long-term subs for employees on leave of absence with pay mid-year was budgeted at about 100,000 in the elementary and 76,000 in the high school. Leave cash outs were budgeted at about 140,000 in the elementary and 61 in the high school. Those are, we allow, if you don't use all your sick leave, you can cash it out at the end of the year. Not for teachers, but administrators and I believe secretaries. And then termination pay was budgeted at 500,000 in both the elementary and the high school. There's always a savings there. I mean, knock on wood. There's always a savings there. because I don't know who's going to retire. It's always 500,000 at least, but I don't know if it's in the elementary or in the high school. So I just budget for both. So one of them gets a savings almost every year. The increase in health insurance was $37.50 per month. And then you can see a chart there, actual salaries and budgeted salaries. Despite the 2% increase in administrator salaries, the minor increase in overall salaries reflects the 0.5 decrease in administrators. The increase in educator salaries reflects the 2% increase on the matrix and additional hires for elementary music, PE, and the 6-period assignments not becoming mandatory. Teachers can still teach them, but they're not mandatory. The decrease in the professional salary reflects the elimination of approximately 3.5 FTE. And these were specialist positions, librarian, SLP, counselor. That's all I'll say there. The paraprofessional positions are difficult to fill. So like I said, I budget for what I think they should be if we could fill them all, but we never spend that much. So it looks like there's this huge increase in paraprofessionals, but that's because the actual salaries didn't turn out what they could have been or should have been if we could fill them. The increases in salaries for all the other employee groups reflects the 2% assumption increases. Other budgeted increases, 10% increase in natural gas, 17% increase in electricity, and a 10.65% increase for garbage, water, and sewer in the elementary, and 7.13% in the high school. Here's a shocker for you. Property and liability insurance decreased 6.4%. In meeting with our agent, the reasons for that included lower attachment rates for reinsurance, and they went with a new vendor who provided these lower rates, and an improved loss ratio for the district and better property taxes or property rates. So improved loss ratio, that's us doing a better job, and then going with this new carrier dropped our liability insurance 6.4%. Taxable values decreased. Getting a lot of questions about taxable values and market values. So the way they calculate your assessed value now and your market value is completely different. So most everyone saw an increase in market value, but a lower assessed value. Okay, moving right along. This might surprise you, but A and B increased 131 in the elementary and 68 in the high school. That's your charter schools. The 3-year average was used to calculate both budgets, and they allowed us to use the current enrollment as a 3-year average for the charter schools, which really helped. And then, of course, there was a 3% increase on all the funding components. I'm not going to go through all that. Then the biggie was the STARS Act, and so we did receive the expanded quality educator payment for qualifying. And then I guess I would talk about HB 203. That was the tuition law passed in 2023. So the way it works in 2026 is we bill the other districts for bill them tuition for the students that came to us last year. And then I budget for that revenue in the general fund, and it is a direct reduction in property taxes. So follow that? Sure. Sure. So we billed the districts that sent students to us last year. That had to be done by July 15th. Then I take what that revenue was that I billed, and incorporate it into the budget as a revenue stream. And that revenue stream doesn't increase our budget. It lowers property taxes. That's the idea of the bill. The idea of the bill is that the district of residence should pay for their students. Okay, so in the elementary, I billed 450,000 to 217, and in the high school, 486,959. So property taxes were reduced by that amount. They would have been higher.
Janelle, on that topic, so I see where it came in, and then I see in the probably the next page where it goes out. My
I'll get to
question
that.
is,
Yeah.
when you do the math, we took this in and we paid that out and the property taxes go down on the difference, or did the property taxes go down?
I'll get to that. We'll talk about the tuition fund next, or not next, but when we get there, we'll talk about what the net effect was. So if you look at the chart, you can see the state funding comparison last year to this year. And, the big one is the quality educated payment for the stars. Approximately 708,000 of technology expenditures I moved out of the general fund to the interlocal because I can't pay for it in the general fund. We don't have enough budget. That's in the elementary. I want to be clear on that. And then about 270,000 we get a CSCT match. We pay it, we get reimbursed. I pay some of the counselor salaries out of that match. Let's see. One-to-one professionals, interpreters, nurses will be paid out of the tuition fund, about $1,900,000 in the elementary and about $435,000 in the high school. This is good news. A superintendent contingency of about $837,000 was budgeted in the high school. We haven't had a contingency in the general fund. Oh gosh, no. Like forever. So that's how much we were in black in the high school budget. I mean, it was in July. It's not going to be that by the end of the year, but that's good news. Operating reserves are about 8.64% in the elementary and 9.78% in the high school. And if our bonds pass, that will be good news to have them that high, because we will get a better bond rating. Okay, moving on to the transportation. The transportation manager and his supervisor did a deep analysis of the transportation budget and made cuts as they deemed reasonable and appropriate. First Student, our transportation contractor, notified the district that they will not be able to fulfill the commitment to deliver 15 new buses at the start of the 2025-26 school year. This is the second time they have failed to meet their obligation. So the district and the First Student have agreed that the district will be invoiced at last year's rates until those buses are on the road ready to transport students. Once that happens, then we'll see like about a 3.5% increase. When do you think that'll happen? I've got my guess. But after factoring all these, deep analysis and the overall result of the budget was a reduction of about $281,000 in the elementary and about $42,000 in the high school. And then new legislation passed that now requires the state to pay 75% of the on schedule, and the county only has to pay 25%. So that's good for the county. All right, back to the tuition fund and HB 203. So for students, our students that went to another district, they billed us, and that money is levied in the tuition, or we've levied to pay for that in the tuition fund. So we were invoiced $338,118 for 216 students in the elementary, and $169,413 students in the high school. So if you look back over at the general fund, we are going to receive more than we will levy for. So it should see a reduction in property taxes. Let's see. The budget also reflects costs associated with one-to-one services for special needs students. The elementary district experienced a pretty big decline. So remember, we budgeted in arrears, so we paid for these costs last year, and now I'm budgeting in the tuition fund for the actual costs. And last year there was a significant decline of about $346,000 in the elementary. Realize we have a new special ed director and program changes were made, and that's the reason for the reduction. And student needs will also be a reason. And the high school had experienced just a modest increase. We also budget for students detained in detention facilities. About 8,000, and then students in residential treatment. We have to pay a portion, not the entire amount, but a portion. The retirement, it will just reflect the retirement fund budget. It just reflects payroll employer costs associated with salaries. And at the time I prepared last year's, there was some discussion about a retirement incentive, and so I had incorporated that into the budget last year. It didn't happen. There's been no talk of it this year, so I did not incorporate it this year, so you're going to see a reduction in the retirement fund budget. The elementary adult ed budget is pretty status quo, but in the high school, we weren't sure if we were going to get the ABE, federal ABE. So I took the costs associated with that federal ABE and levied for it in the adult ed, or put it into the adult ed fund in case we didn't get the federal funding. So it increased. As you know, the technology fund, we have a perpetual levy at this point, $520,500 in the elementary and $559,500 in the high school. We know that devices will fail eventually. They just will, and the cost to replace them is nearly $500,000 in the elementary and $350,000 in the high school. So there is concern, but I do think his budget, or the technology budget, looks a little better this year, provided devices don't fail. So $160,000 is remaining in the elementary. That rolled into the budget and added to the levy for a total budget of $712,340. And the high school budget this year is $1.5 million, which is pretty healthy. Then we get this big chunk of money from the state, $31,490 in the elementary and $17,240 in the high school. The amount, moving on to the flexibility, in the elementary, this small amount just reflects unspent cash balance that was reappropriated for the budget. In the high school, we had $220,340 remaining. That was that advanced opportunity grant that wasn't spent, and then we'll get $206,606 again, and those two added together will create the flexibility fund budget. And then the debt service, when a lot of the property tax or property taxes come into play. The budget amounts for debt service payments on the 2017 bonds is $2,545,000 for principal payments and about a $1.6 million for interest payments. On the 2019 bonds, $345,000 for the principal and $228,300 for interest payments. Agent fees were budgeted about $1,000, and then we also have the special improvement districts, the SIDs, about 290 in the elementary, and about 200,000 in the high school. So the elementary total budget was $4,970,700, and the high school is just the SIDs. Last but not least, the building reserve. On May 2nd, 2023, taxpayers approved the building reserve, increase in the building reserve levy. So we now have a total levy of $3 million in the elementary and $1.5 million in the high school. The remaining fund balance for the budget in elementary was almost $3 million and $3 million in both the elementary and the high school. Planned projects for fiscal year 25-26 to be funded by these voted levies. Exploring projects, including flooring replacement and asbestos mitigation at C.R. Anderson and Fort George's, roofing projects at Warren and Hannah Middle School, parking lot projects at various schools and the Lincoln Center, HVAC replacement at 4Gs, air handler maintenance and repair at Helena High, interior painting projects, masonry repair at Rossiter, Smith, Warren Elementary, and C.R. Anderson, electrical upgrades at Smith, playground improvements at various schools, water fixture replacement as needed, floor maintenance, supplies, fire system inspections, and the list goes on and on. You can read it. In addition to those projects funded by the voted levy, there's the safety and security subfund, and that's where we pay for some counselors and SROs and whatnot. So let's see. We have a permissive levy of $223,000 in the elementary and about $120,000 in the high school, and then school major maintenance aid of about $435,000 in the elementary and $211,000 in the high school. Total fund budget in the elementary is about $6,560,000, and in the high school it's about $5 million. And then if you flip through, there's some charts that just kind of give you trends and histories. One that I thought was pretty, well, I'm visual, but if you look at the taxable value, it went up, 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 way up, flat, and now down. And then if you look at the A and B trends, we're flat, let's face it. I also thought that the state revenue versus property taxes was telling. Property taxes dipped a little and state revenue did increase. And if you look at page 11 at the technology graph, you can see when we started struggling in the elementary technology. Our budget and our expenditures were almost double in the early years that I got here. And lastly, I just have a graph of the history of levies, I guess. On the very last page.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mickelson.
You're
Don't go
welcome.
anywhere because I'm sure there'll be lots of questions.
Okay.
Trustee Armstrong?
I'm back. No. So I was curious, when we talk about the elementary technology fund, how was our budget higher earlier? Were we subsidizing it out of the general? So it says like fiscal year 16, 1.6 million, and then we go down in terms of the budget as we go. How do we have more money earlier?
So if we didn't spend all that we levied for, it carries over to the next year. And so there was a lot of carryover in those early years. Now we spend it down.
Okay, that makes sense. And then it was, I know, Rex, you've talked a little bit that you did take some money from Todd to pay for some salaries. I didn't realize it was that significant. I don't know where Mr. Verrill is. What's the standard, business wise that you're supposed to be putting aside for buildings in your building reserve, which, by the way, that would be our local taxpayers paying for that. And we can't afford to do that. But there's been a lot of talk, like why are buildings struggling beyond the average years of 70 years? And what is do you remember what the standard was by chance?
I don't know if I quite understand your question. A standard of how much money you set aside for buildings, or if you have X number of buildings, how much money should you have in reserves? Is that what you're thinking?
For maintenance, like I want to say he said there is a standard that you should be setting aside each year to do maintenance and that kind of stuff, and that is not.
That's such a difficult variable in which, every district, every organization, the military are all going to have different age of buildings. And so the newer your buildings, the less that you could put in versus, a district such as ours is an average of 63 years old with the 3 new buildings. Or if you take the 3 new buildings out, our average age in our buildings are 70 years old. And so that number is going to be a higher percentage of what you should set aside. But the set aside money isn't necessarily, we've doubled that, right? We get $4.5 million every year to maintain our buildings. We've doubled that as a collective group 4 or 5 years ago when we had $750,000 building reserve that we'd ask for our taxpayers, and then 1.5 in the elementary. Well, now we're at $4.5 million. We've doubled those numbers, and we still are using that $4.5 million to tackle 70-year-old buildings that have $100 million of deferred maintenance. And so you can see that, I don't know what that ratio is, but that's not a good one. And nor do we believe that it would be nice to be able to, but we're at $4.5 million. That means that if we need more, we have to ask the taxpayers for more. And I'm just not in a position ready to ask for more building reserves. I think the bond address is a lot of our maintenance. We have $53 million in deferred maintenance in the high school. And if we build a new building and remodel capital, we are going to essentially take $50 million off of the deferred maintenance out of the high school district, and that puts us down to 50 district-wide, 53. And so that's one of the ways that we address deferred maintenance, is at some point the buildings just can't operate. They've lost their functionality. And I know there's a formula that Todd talks about, or Mr. Verrill talks about, when you're assessing your values of your buildings and how much money you need to put into them. There's a go, no go. At some point, it doesn't make sense for you to put money into a building because it's past its usefulness. And I think that he has applied that knowledge to some of our buildings, that maybe the reason why we're here, and it is. Does that help? Everybody's looking at Mr. Verrill like we're ready for you to say something. Did I capture that?
Yeah. Well, in a perfect world, we would use a formula for basically the replacement value of a building, and we'd take a percentage of it, like 3% is kind of the standard. So the current replacement value of a building, say for instance, Helena High, which is what, 180, and whatever 3% of that is. 18 times 3. Where's Mr. McKay? Come on, you're the math guy. So whatever. I mean, ultimately, that's how you would want to do it. We don't have that amount of money. So we need a way bigger budget to do it properly, kind of like the federal government does. They use a percentage of the value of your buildings. And then that also, the plant replacement value is also a way you can determine whether or not it's time to replace your building. And we've probably exceeded that on all of our buildings, with a useful life of about 50 to 75 years. So it's not a straightforward answer to your question because there's 100 different ways to do it. Some people like to say take a percentage of your budget, like 9% of your budget should go towards maintenance. We're not quite doing that right now because then my budget would be $10 million a year or $12 million a year. So to answer your question, we're still woefully underfunded for maintenance. But as we all know, we had to make a calculation on how much we should ask the taxpayers for. And that's where we kind of came up with a $4.5 million total. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
But-
I think it's important to discuss this because I think a lot of the public is just wondering, why are you guys in this situation? And that is very helpful. It's just not feasible to ask the taxpayers to pay that much of a burden to meet, more of an appropriate maintenance schedule. And then let's just not forget in the past couple of years, the value to replace buildings has just gone up astronomically.
High today, and someone mentioned something about a roof. I think you said something. Helena High has 23 separate roof sections. 23. And some of them are tiny, some of them are big. But the entire maintenance budget for the high school district before our levy was $750,000. That I can spend $750,000 on a relatively small piece of roof. Now they last for 20 years, but when you have 20 sections there and you have 20 sections at Capitol High, that's 40 sections of roof. $750,000, you couldn't do anything with that. And so people ask how we are in this position now. It's because we didn't have enough money to properly replace systems that were failing. We should have replaced that boiler at Helena High 25 years ago. But we didn't have the money to do it, and we didn't ask for a bond to do it.
Yes.
Well, yeah, so this was before my time. Maybe we did ask and it failed. And it's like, how did we get here? Well, we didn't ask. And when we did ask, if they said no, then, here we are. But what got us here isn't going to get us to where we want to be. So, business as usual is no longer a way we can operate. We're kind of magicians on how the guys are able to maintain things, but it literally is baling wire and
Holding things together.
But the buildings are still operating. But it will get to a point where the $1.5 million isn't going to solve it. So, long answer to your short question.
Any other questions? Butcher?
It's me. Yeah, I have a question for Janelle, if that's okay. I'm still on my special ed funding. I was looking at the tuition fund. Do we apply for like a disproportionate cost payment at all in addition to our state allowable sped?
We don't apply for it. It's a formula based on our expenditures and the state expenditures. And if we're way above, which we always are, we do get a disproportionate cost. But we don't apply for it. It's just in the calculation.
Okay. And is that partially because Helena has a higher percentage of students with high need disabilities due to some of the services that we offer in town?
I would say so. Yeah, we're kind of a hub.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Trustee Hathorn?
I heard you say that we raised our average teacher salary to 66, or the starting salary to 66%, but we have to go to 70 eventually, right?
To get that through, that's part of our agreement. Yep.
And so that's been budgeted in, I'm assuming.
We haven't built that budget yet.
Haven't built that budget yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
2.5% next year that we'll have to.
I feel good in the high school. I feel like that's going to be doable.
So
there'll be some struggles in the elementary.
This might be the first time that we have not entered into a 2-year contract with our lot of our payroll groups for maybe ever. And so when now we have a lens that's not 1 year deep, we have a 2 year lens. So if we're talking our interlocal fund, we're not just thinking what are we going to need for the following year, but we also know that we have to plan for future years. And so it just puts us, I like the stability of a 2 year contract. It shows growth in our district, but also it makes us think out 2 years in advance, in which we don't know the variables in which the budget comes at us yet, because it's a year by year budget. So.
But the interlocal is probably out there. I know Rex has committed some of it, but it's pretty healthy. But I feel like we'll be all right next year, even with the 2% and going to a 70%.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of talk statewide as to, whether you should jump up right away or wait. And I guess if our interlocals are give us that safety net, then that allows us to.
Actually, Union didn't want to jump right away.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And not to 70.
Yeah, they didn't want to jump right to 70.
During our negotiations, and I feel, again, part of our expanding and improved culture, we had really great conversations. Kay was there around, are we going to just go minimal 62, or do we jump full force into 70, make that commitment? Remember, it was a 62, 64, 66, 68, 70 over a 5 year period or span. Where do we go? And we, consensus came to an agreement around let's land at 66 and then make that a smaller jump, and then the rest of it the following year.
I would just add that my understanding of that was consideration for the whole matrix. So for people who had been, in the district for a long time, to bump up to 70% for first time teachers, it was going to throw that matrix more out of whack and create more, more of a sense of disparity, I think, between long serving and shorter serving and brand new teachers, just to add that bit.
Any other questions?
I have just a couple of questions. And I'm thinking about our A and B numbers. And one thing I'm thinking about with that is Kindersprouts. And that isn't something that's come up here. So we have now, how many Kindersprout classes coming on for this next year? 6 or 7? I guess I'm just curious about the impact of that on our A and B, and are thinking about that for this coming budget.
Yes, good question. Increase enrollment, that's those innovative ideas on how to bring more enrollment back into the district. Kindersprouts, I know we have 7. I think we're working on 8, correct? So the 8th one, I think that last 8th one's going to land at Kessler? No. Okay, so we'll have 8 Kindersprout fully programs throughout the district.
Which will increase A and B. We just won't see it until next year.
They're in the rears.
Because then you have to wait till the next year. Okay, so that isn't reflected in this.
No.
Okay, that answers that question. And I had one other question. Go ahead and get back to me.
Trustee Walsh, did you have a question?
I did, yeah.
So I'm curious with the transportation piece, when we're looking at the buses, we've received a lot of feedback over certainly the last year, but 2 years maybe or more, about like our activity buses and things. We don't have heaters and windows don't pull up and all that jazz. So the 15 buses that they had said that they would provide, I'm assuming that's replacing these older buses that have deficiencies like that.
Yes, the new buses that were supposed to replace those old ones. Yes.
So have they talked about the reason that they're not able to do that?
Yes. They are blaming it on the manufacturer.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Pieces and parts is what we're hearing.
So then it's we'll try to deliver, we'll promise to deliver. There's just a delay in delivery.
It's not our fault.
Okay. Yeah.
We have a contract expiration and renegotiation contracts coming up in the future.
Okay. So things to take a look out for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I'm trying to see if I can understand. There's a bullet point here about decreasing the 3.5 FTEs for specialty positions and replacement savings. So is that we have a nurse position that we just didn't fill or other specialty?
Several positions that were open and there were longer standing nurses. So we're bringing in that very high rate. So there's some savings.
Oh.
The position will be there, but the new person likely won't be making that higher salary. So that's what that means.
And across our district, there was less of a need for nurses, counselors, because we have one less building.
I wasn't gonna, yeah, okay.
It's just what it is. But we're down one building, and so there's a less of a need across the district at large for those positions.
And then I just had my last question for the tuition where it's, there's some district match, it looks like. So residential treatments, I mean, is that mostly speaking to Shodair?
Girls and Boys Ranch, Shodair, New Day, Aware.
And is that because we receive the tuition and then we're obligated to take a portion of that? We're not receiving this when they're not here, right?
Yeah, we can't count them for A and B. So
Boy.
they just, I know, in 2 sessions ago, there was a phrase going around legislature, districts need to have skin in the game. This is the skin in the game.
Thank you.
We're doing our part.
Trustee Armstrong?
Superintendent Wells, so we're doing more Kinder Sprouts, but that is a money loser for us based upon the requirements in the classroom, or can you just remind, I mean, it's, first of all, it is an educational winner.
Yes.
But it might be at financial cost to us. Can you just remind me of that?
Yeah. Well, so we won't phrase it as a loser. It's a wash at best, right? So the cost to a teacher and a para with the number of students that you're going to serve in a classroom is going to be, it's an expensive program. Less students, 2 adults, a lot of apparatuses, manipulatives to purchase for the curriculum and the needs of the children. The FF&E, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, take a lot of expenditures to get your classroom set up. So they are not inexpensive programs to run. You get paid in arrear, but I would say that when we have 4-year-olds into our system, they are going to stay with us in our system. And so it's an opportunity for us to bring them children, 48 months, right? They're really young, but their families tend to stay with us. The work that we've asked about, I think Siobhan asked about, are we going to continue the work that Barb and Julie had put out and indicated that there's a need for students to feel a sense of belonging in our district, and this is a great way. So though it does cost, or it's a wash early, they remain in our system and we don't lose them later down the road. So inevitably, it is a win for Hamlin Public Schools. And not only that, if it's a wash, academically, it's a win. Like, we're getting 4-year-olds into our system that's learning school, right? They're learning what it's like to do that. And so we're so prepared as kindergartners when they walk in a year later to be academic learners. And so that's the win for us. If it's a wash, great. But the best part is that they stay with us and they're ready to be learners when they excel through our programs.
So it's not a financial, it's more of a wash. I thought it was more of a financial loss, which would be great as we get in this annual study if the state would do more fully funding their mandates. That
was the real elephant in the room. Is we are now, I think what I started 10, 15 years ago back here is we might have been one of 12 states that did not have full-time for preschool. I think we're down to one of maybe 4. This is an attempt that what we should be doing is having all 4-year-olds in our programs, right? It's the right thing, but we're just not a little late. We're last to the table on this one.
I mean, kindergarten wasn't even required until 2005.
Right.
Well, I would just add from personal experience that it might save money in the long run because you're going to have a lot less remediation and extra attention and services that would go into those kids. So I think that would be interesting to compare down the road once you've had it in place for a while.
Another part of that bill, the early literacy initiative, because they've named it a couple different things, is the summer program. So like the summer school we offered this summer to qualifying people in that K-1-2 going into 3 plan is generating revenue where summer schools of the past don't. So there's like a 0.25 A and B associated with summer school. So it's new into that. It's all part of that pre-K / jumpstart working forward initiative to make our long-term goals of academic success. But yeah, it's a worthy endeavor because we're built upon an A and B for revenue system. Like if we don't pull A and B in, or we don't capture incoming kindergartners because they did pre-K somewhere else, we can't afford to lose them in any shape or form.
So your FFB costs, your startup costs are a one-time cost.
Yeah.
Once you've done it, you don't do it over and over. And just a reminder, we sent 24 to another school district.
That's right.
Here. So we are all about Kinderexpress.
All right.
And we hope we're close to adding an 8th classroom. Not quite there yet, but I think we will.
You can see,
Yeah.
you can see on the transfers out, there's pre-K transferring to Montana City and then they stay for K. If you keep them here, they'll stay here too, is the assumption. Any other questions from anyone? Trustee Menard-Butcher.
It's more of a comment. Just looking at some of these funds, like the technology fund, for example, and the statewide amount that we get is really, it's laughable.
Yes.
And our property taxpayers, even though they haven't passed levies in recent years, they do have quote unquote skin in the game through our perpetual levies. So it's just more of a frustration. And I mean, building reserve and maintenance is another great example where our local property taxpayers have additional skin in the game and the state's not doing their fair share. So I think it's just important to point some of those details out as the decennial study is happening, that we are not keeping up with modern expenses, and this is the technology fund and the building reserve fund are 2 great examples of exactly how short the state is funding our schools.
I would argue the tuition fund with the special ed 1-on-1s also.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I had a question if you guys are, if I don't want to jump in, if you guys have more, I'll wait. On the superintendent contingency, I love that it shows some financial stability for the first time in a long time, but could you explain what kinds of materials or where would that money be spent?
Just unexpected expenditures that, like, okay, maybe we need to enter into a contract with SMA.
Yeah, okay.
Those types of things. Goes through the superintendent approval process to use that money for it.
The 5 pillars of district priorities, if we're bringing Diane Groves in and we need to do training. And so I really use that information or that revenue source for a building budget or the building priorities. And so our district priorities. And that's a lot of where that will go.
We haven't had it for years, so we've relied on the interlocal. So,
yeah. Okay.
To have it in high school.
It does. And I just wanted to say this back and make sure that I understand it. So we have a declining birth rate in our district, and the state does. The state has a slow declining birth rate, which translates into fewer kids, which translates into less A and B. But did I hear you correctly that despite all of that, because of our public charters, we actually grew our A and B?
Yes. Because they allowed us to use our current year and B number in the 3-year average calculation. So the other elementary proper, if you will, was using the 3-year average. because we have declining enrollment.
Mhm.
But they allowed us to use the current year in the charter school, which gave us more A and B.
Is that how the law was designed to work, that you calculate the A and B differently for?
No, they just allowed, got in there quick. I can't even remember who did it. Was it Beatty? Yeah. Yeah, they didn't want us to get punished because if you took our 50 kids and used the 3-year average, it really shrunk.
Remember when our
Okay.
changed because the BD did a,
Legislative Representative Beatty recognized that there was a fault in the language, and then they reconciled that. They redesigned the bill so that we could use a 3 average, not the 1 year,
Sure, yeah.
which compromised all of the charter schools when they had to go to a 1 year average. And so they fixed that language. Then we're sent us out new. It's one that Janelle and I was like, where did that come from? It just flew through the session and was approved on the governor's desk.
Not on anybody's radar.
Okay,
That was a good fix by
it's good.
Beatty.
It's a good fix. All right. Trustee Armstrong.
Thank you. So does that mean that we expect that number to go down? Do we actually have more physical bodies, what I'm asking, or is it because of the current year versus the 3 year?
We did not have more bodies.
Okay.
It's the calculation.
Okay.
And do I think it'll go down? Not next year, as long as our numbers stay up in the charter school, because we also get to use the same current year A and B for 3-year average next year. So you get to use it in the first 2 years, and then you flip to the 3-year average calculation.
Our increase in students will be from kinder sprouts?
Mm-hmm.
But that's in the charter.
Nope, but it overall.
Although
Or bodies.
it would be, I mean, we do have some fantastic opportunities in our charter schools that I don't think are matched in the area. So it would be great if some families chose to take advantage of those opportunities.
Any other questions? All right, well, that was a great presentation, great conversation. Is anyone feeling emotion?
Chair McKee, I move that we approve the final budget adoption for the elementary fiscal year 2025-26.
Thank you, Trustee Hathorn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. We've got a motion from Trustee Hathorn and a second from Trustee Satry. Is there any public comment on the motion? Any further board comment or questions on the motion? I do just got to say, I mean, last year when we cut our budget to shreds, the room was packed. It feels really, really good to sew those shreds back together again. And it doesn't even bother me that nobody came. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay. Second verse, same as the first. Is anybody feeling a motion on the high school?
Chair McKee, I move final budget adoption for the high school fiscal year 2025-26.
Thank you, Trustee Walsh. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We've got a motion by Trustee Walsh and a second by Trustee Renan Butcher. Is there any public comment on the motion? Any further board comment or questions on the motion? Trustee Armstrong.
Just like to point out, we're moving from 6 to 7 to 5 to 7, correct? And so we're still 87%, and so we're in the black. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Nice work, everybody. It only took 5 years. All right, student trustee Gardapi, are you ready? You're up.
Ready as I'll ever be. I was just going to ask you, how'd you do during your first board meeting with that?
I was real thick.
I'd like to point out how that this is my second.
It is your second.
He's here on June 10th, you guys.
Actually, second.
It makes it even more real.
You know, I gotta say this one is not as interesting.
Yeah. I get that.
That's the crowd that's here, right?
Yeah. The crowd might be a little bit bigger tonight, but do you have Delaney's also for the Capitol? Okay, if you want to just send that over to me, I can read that too.
She was online for a little bit to begin with, but she did drop off, so.
All right. So, hi everyone. Hope you all had a great summer. I did. The staff at Helena High have been prepping for the incoming students to start the 2025-2026 school year. We have many new faces joining us, and that's not just the students, it's the staff as well, and I'm really excited to meet everyone there. Teachers have been prepping the classrooms, counselors have been creating the schedules, and the custodians are doing their best job of cleaning up the high school and really just doing as good as they can with the materials they've been given with and the building they've been given with. I would like to thank everyone for their hard work, and especially the custodians, the people, the principals, and just everyone that's working at our school. They really do a great job setting up the year for us, and I'm super excited to come back and start learning again. Not only have the teachers and the facility have been busy though, the students have as well. And this week we are about to start tryouts for different sports, including football, soccer, cross country, and golf. Golf starts one day before everyone else. But let me tell you, I am not excited for the 2-a-day workouts, and happy to get those tryouts over. Some recognitions I'd like to mention are Layla Riggs for placing second at the National Speech and Debate Competition, which is really cool. No one else in Montana has done that. And so congratulations to her. My other recognition is the people who have been working with the bond. They've done so much, and it's been really great, and I loved being a part of it. They put in a lot of work. We've been meeting every Wednesday, and I'm just super excited to see all the work we put into and hopefully receive great results. Yeah. To end, I would like to invite you all to join us at our Booster Barbecue, which will take place on August 23rd, and that will go from 11 to 1:30. So stop by, get a hamburger, hot dog, meet some of the new people coming into our school, or stop by on the 27th to see students like myself welcoming in the freshmen. We'll be giving some tours, playing some games. Personally, I'm super excited for it. I definitely want to beat some of the freshmen there and show that I can win all the competitions.
23rd is Saturday.
Good question. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And then I'll just find Delaney's here. Okay.
It's not on that Chromebook because it's headed for device failure.
Yeah, so this is actually like the 4th Chromebook I've gotten throughout high school.
They just die.
It's not the best, and it takes a long time to load. So I've been having this like set on my screen since last night. So I'm gonna make sure I get the words up. So okay, so this is from Delaney, and I am representing Capitol right now. Good evening, trustees. With summer coming to an end, both staff and students at Capitol High School are looking forward to the upcoming school year. As always, a new school brings many reminders and many to-do lists for families and staff alike. Between August 20th and August 22nd, seniors, juniors, and freshmen will all be picking up their textbooks and schedules. This includes checking out a lock, purchasing a parking pass, and making sure all classes are correct before the first day of school. For freshmen, August 27th will bring about both their textbook and class schedule pickup day, as well as link day. On link day, upperclassmen will lead smaller groups of freshmen around the school playing games and helping them acclimate to the building where they will spend the next 4 years. Can't believe it's over. For everyone else, the first day of school commences on August 28th. As well, as always, fall means the starting up of high school sports. Football, volleyball, golf, cross country, and soccer will all begin their regular season practices and will be preparing for the upcoming games. Many students are now getting their sports physicals done and submitted in order to prepare for their respective seasons. For spectators, activity passes are being sold so students can avoid the hassle of purchasing a ticket to every game. Looking forward into September, Picture Day will be held at CHS on September 3rd. On that same note, students will be purchasing and making contributions to the yearbook for the remainder of the year. Though summer felt like it went by in a flash, the starting of the school year is anxiously awaited, with many students admittedly finishing up their summer projects in the last 3 weeks. We are ready for a great year, both academic and activity-wise. And it says something I don't want to say. It says go Brew, but that just kind of feels wrong coming from me.
Thank you very much. I don't think we'll have an HEA report. Is that correct? Okay. And we'll probably, the committees haven't, no one knew who was on them until today. So I don't think we have any committee reports for tonight. Is there a school board report?
No school board report.
Parent council visit? Probably not. And upcoming meetings, I don't think we have that put together just yet, do we?
Not quite.
Not quite. Yep, that's on me, guys. September 9th. Yep, that's our only upcoming meeting. Okay. Any board or superintendent comments as we wind this down? Trustee Armstrong.
Brock, I just want to thank you. We've been to individual brews and bonds or individual bags and bonds. I think Brock has been to, and then also the Esperanza schools. Brock has been to a lot of that. And you definitely bring something to the table with your stories today about the mouse around the cooking and art facilities and taking some of the Hellenans in to see the actual restroom facilities and the lack thereof. And I just really appreciate the students taking time out of your summer. Really, you are the best storytellers because you live with the deficits of that building on a daily basis. And so I just want to thank you, and you're kind of ideal for civic engagement and critical thinking, which is really what we're all about. We're about a community and the common good, and you are really stepping into those shoes quite well. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Definitely, it's been a lot this summer. It really has not felt like summer, but in a good way, not in a bad way. But I feel like this bond is just super important, and we need to do as much as we can. And student involvement is so crucial to this. And even though I won't be able to see it, I'm super excited to see where this will go.
Trustee Stetcher, did you want to say anything?
I was going to say the very same thing. Brock has been just so energetic and energizing, and thank you so much for just cheerleading. It's been great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Trustee Rand Butcher, did you want to say anything? All right. Guys, we're adjourned.
Thank you.